Hello everyone, I'm back again with a brand new video for you showing you how to make these beautiful beads that look and feel like wood, but they are made from paper. So I'm going to show you two different ways to make these tapered tube beads. For those people who don't want to do this from scratch, I have free printables for you over on my website, and you'll find a link to my website on the end screen of this video. So how have I made these beads? I have used tea dyed paper. I make this tea dyed paper at home, and usually I use it to make grungy journals for my personal use. I love the grungy look of this, I love the feel of it. And the secret in these beads that I have started to make from this tea-dyed paper is the kind of paper that I choose to use. You can see this paper is really smooth and it's got a gorgeous feel to it. It's copy paper, but I'll show you in a moment the brand that I use. This is what I normally do with them. I make these really grungy albums which I use to write in or stick pictures in, whatever. I just love the grungy look of these, and I hadn't really thought of making beads with this paper. This is kind of something completely different to my paper bead making, but then I just suddenly had this vision of combining some of my designs to make some stickers that would really complement the look of this paper. And so I set out to dye some paper quite a bit darker than you see here, and then make beads with them. And I'm going to show you the whole process. Some of you probably well aware of how to make tea dyed paper, but for those people that don't know, I'm going to show you the process that I use. And as you can see, the paper that came out of that session was much darker. So I start off with a handful of tea bags. You can use more or less depending on how dark or light you want your paper. So I give them a good soak in there. And I also add a teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda because apparently it reduces the acidity of the tea, which in turn will reduce the acidity of the paper. So this is the brand of paper that I use, and I get this from Tesco supermarket. It's Navigator brand, and it's especially for printing colour documents, so you have a really smooth coated surface on here. It's not too expensive, I can't remember how much I paid, and you can see it's 120 GSM, and it just has such a gorgeous feel to it. It's so smooth, and this is what makes the beads so substantial when you have rolled them. Because the quality of the paper is so high, you just get a much more solid bead. So that's that. I also, in this session, I also dyed a few doilies that I've had for years, also some paper flowers that I've had for years, but obviously I didn't use these in this project. These are things that I cut out, use them for embellishments in my journals, but you will see here I do throw a few of those in. You'll see that I scrunch some of the paper up because that allows the tea to get into the cracks, and you get quite a lovely pattern from that. You don't have to do that if you're using this tea dyed paper to make beads. Scrunching it up would be more of a journal-y kind of thing, but it's up to you. You can just make a mixed batch, and then you can use the papers for beads or journals or whatever you want. Now, I wanted my papers to be really dark for these beads, so I left mine in for overnight. So they're probably in for about 12 hours. And I actually dried mine in the oven on a very low heat. And that makes them quite crispy. Maybe crispy is the wrong word. but it does make them very dry, and they do have a lovely feel to them when they're baked dry. You can obviously leave them in the sun if you're lucky enough to have sun, or you could just leave them on a rack in your house if you have room. But yeah, I baked mine in the oven on a very, very, very low heat, so it was just about warm, and they don't take very long. If you have any ripped ones like you saw me have there, you can tear a strip of paper from another sheet and just Mod Podge it over the top. It all adds to the grungy look. You can see coming up there a sheet that I put a couple of doilies on top of when it was in the tea bath. So that's a brief look at how I tea dye my paper, and there's lots more people on YouTube that will show you how they tea dye their paper. It's all pretty similar, but worth having a look. I will leave a couple of links in my blog, so if you want to watch anyone else doing this, you can. Now we move on to how I actually cut my strips. Now, I've designed this brand new template for drawing out your paper bead strips. My other template that is also on Etsy is one that comes to a point, but to make tapered tube beads you need ones that have a blunt end. So I've designed this new template, which, as I said, is in my Etsy shop, and you can buy it on there for a few dollars or a few pounds. Very, very easy to use, exactly as you see me doing here. And here is the first strip that I've drawn out, and obviously you just repeat that across the page and then cut them out with scissors, or you can use my cheaty method, which I will show you next. I've also designed this blunt-ended template to be used on silhouette cutting machines, and you can get that in my Etsy shop also. You can use it on silhouette machines and probably on Cricut, but as I don't have a Cricut machine anymore, I can't advise you on that. Yeah, I am using a Cricut cutting mat here, but that's because my local craft shop only sells Cricut mats, and the Cricut mat does fit my silhouette. For people that do make lots and lots of paper beads, I would strongly advise thinking about getting an electronic cutting machine like this Silhouette Cameo, or a Cricut machine, or a Brother Scan and Cut. There's loads of them out there on the market, and they're definitely worth having. So here you're looking at the strips I made with the wider strip template, but I have actually got them in I think 3 different sizes, same sizes as you see on the bracelet I made for this video, and they are all in my Etsy shop for anyone that does have a silhouette cutter and would like to make these blunt-ended beads in different sizes. You can of course also use the skeleton that you get left with after you've cut the main strips. These will be slightly different sizes, which is brilliant because it all adds to the randomness of the beads. So using my silhouette cutter, I have cut all the different size bead strips that I need for this project. You can also cut all these different sizes using my new blunt-ended plastic template if you haven't got an electronic cutter. This top edge has got that lovely brown look to it, and this edge has not got that brown look. Well, I'm going to show you how to get this. Most of you that have seen me making beads before will know that I usually use a Sharpie along the edge, but for these ones I've actually used some Tim Holtz Distress ink, and I quite often will use this tiny bulldog clip to hold my strip, because it gets quite difficult when you get to the skinnier end, especially on the very narrow strips, to not get the ink on your fingers. So I'm using this applicator sponge, and the ink is the Vintage Photo ink by Tim Holtz at Ranger. It's very easy to apply. You can obviously still go ahead and use Sharpie markers, which is what you would normally see me doing on the edge of these strips, but because the sponge gives it a slightly, it kind of takes it very slightly over the edge, which you can see here, gives it a kind of smudged look. See, the top one hasn't got any ink on there and the bottom one has got both sides done. So you can see the difference, and it does make a huge difference when you actually roll them. So these skinny strips, they're quite hard to get the ink on the edges without smudging it on your fingers, so this is another way that you can do it, by stretching it out between your fingers and thumb. Or you can use the miniature bulldog clip. Or you can use my tried and trusted method of using a Sharpie pen, and I'm using a light brown Sharpie here, and it works just as well to take that whiteness off the edge. And the reason why we do this becomes really apparent once the bead is rolled. So now we move on to actually rolling the bead, and I'm sure lots of you watching will have seen me do this a million times. I use Pritt stick to put glue on the end, and then I use my own 3mm bead roller, which I manufacture myself. These are also available in my Etsy shop for anyone that wants one. For UK viewers, I also have them in my folksy shop. I'll put links to both shops in the blog post that goes with this video. So that's the first way of making these beads. And the next thing you're going to see me do is use these tiny stickers that I have designed and printed and cut on my silhouette machine, and I'm going to embellish each bead with 2 stickers, one on each side, and I'm going to use 2 different designs to mix them up. Well, actually there's 4 different designs there, but I think I've only shown you 2 of the designs actually printed out onto sticker sheet. And for people with electronic cutters that do want to use these exact same stickers to make the same beads as me, the cut files will all be available in my Etsy shop. So now you can see why you need the bead strips to be blunt cut, because you need space to put the stickers on. I've given these about 3 or 4 coats of Mod Podge, and they are solid as anything. Okay, so that's that for making your own tea dyed paper. But what if you want to make these beads but you don't want to mess around with tea dye? Well, that's where the free printable comes in. What I've actually done is scan one of my tea dyed papers, and then I've overlaid on top the cut lines that you need. So this is the tea dyed paper that I scanned, and it's obviously one of the scrunched up pieces that I did. So the printout looks as if it's scrunched up, but it's not, it's smooth. And you will notice that my printout is a different colour entirely to the original tea dyed paper. So what you actually get is going to depend on your individual printer. I could have played around with this and adjusted the colours to make it look more like the original tea dyed paper, but I actually quite like this, and I like the beads that it made. And you can also see that instead of having to get the stickers to put on the end of the beads, I have actually incorporated the image of the stickers onto the free printable. So all you have to do is download the file from my Google Drive, and the link will be on my website, and then use either scissors or a scalpel and a metal ruler to cut out your strips. You just need to make sure that you do cut exactly on the line so that you don't get any black lines showing, or you just have to be accurate with your cut, because if you aren't accurate and you get any of the black line left over, your beads won't look right. All you will see around the edge is the black line, so you just need to make sure that you do cut that right off. There's some here where I didn't cut them accurately enough, and you can see that the black line is still on there, so I had to go back in and painstakingly shave off that line on the edge. Okay, so just make sure that you cut it off to begin with, because it really is a hassle to do it afterwards. And then you can use either a brown Sharpie marker or the Tim Holtz Distress ink to colour your edges, and don't forget to also colour the inside end of the bead strip where you start to roll it from, because otherwise you'll have bright white middles to your beads and it really doesn't look very good, as you can see here, because I didn't colour this one. Okay, you need that to be dark, otherwise they just don't look right. And then of course you need to roll your bead exactly the same way that I rolled the tea-dyed ones earlier on in the video. So these beads that I rolled from my free printable, they look just as good as the ones that I made from the tea-dyed paper. They just look different, they're just a different hue, they're a different colour completely, but they still look good in their own right. And this is what they look like with 3 coats of Mod Podge on. It hardens them up and they do look really nice with the sheen on them. So I would suggest that you do put some kind of glaze on them or some kind of sealer. As I said, I used Mod Podge. I'll just quickly show you, the bead on the right hasn't been glazed and the bead on the left has, so you can just see there's a nice sheen on the one on the left, but it's up to you whether you do that or not. So just to wrap up and compare the two sets of beads, as you know, the necklace on the right was made with my tea-dyed paper, and I used the stickers that I cut on my silhouette machine to decorate them, and then I Mod Podged over them. I also used my own silhouette cut files to make blunt-ended bead strips of different sizes to make different sized beads, as you can see here. And for the necklace on the left, I used my free printable, which has one of my sticker designs as an integral part of the printout. To actually make the necklaces, I used 1mm round black elastic, and I also used some tiny gold coloured metal beads that I got online to use as spacer beads. If you want to know how you can get any of the things that I have used in this video, then go on over to my website, which is www.funcraftstodoathome.com, and over there will be a blog post that goes along with this video. It's the same blog post where you can get the link for my free printable. Everything that I make myself is either in my free printable files or is for sale over on Etsy. So all the links to products and information are all over there on my website. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel so that you don't miss any new videos that I publish, and you may find that there are some old ones on here that you might want to watch. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and I'm just going to leave you now with a brief look at what the UK spring and summer has been like so far. One more thing, I just want to say hi to Amelia in London, England, who's just started a brand new job. So here's wishing you the best of luck, Amelia, in your new job and your new home. Take care everyone, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.